Richard, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thanks for being here. And I like to kick these off, as you know, with an open question about how health and well-being, or what health and well-being means to you. What does it mean for you or to you?
Okay, health and well-being. The magic word for health and well-being in the biblical tradition is shalom. Now, we normally translate the word shalom to mean peace. And that's a good translation. We just have to add that peace in this case does not just mean the absence of conflict, but the presence of something. So I think it's important to define health as something in its own right. It's not just the absence of disease. Okay, so if it's just absence of disease or absence of conflict, that leaves peace and health sort of colorless, bland sort of thing. So health includes joy and fullness and happiness, a sense of purpose, a sense of knowing where you came from and where you're going. So that, to me, that's all part of health and well-being. It's not just the absence of disease, as in, how are you today? Well, I'm okay. Well, all right. I'd rather be okay than miserable, but hey, can't we? Health is stepping it up a notch.
Gotcha. I like that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So our conversation today is about ritual and how ritual might support health and well-being. And so I thought it would be important to define that as well. So for purposes of today's conversation, what is ritual?
Oh, a ritual. Oh my. Okay. Well, you contrast, we'll give you a negative definition. First, a ritual is not just a routine, although ritual does have an element of routine to it. Any ritual is fairly predictable. It's going to contain certain elements. So a ritual is any activity that people engage in deliberately that has reference to something that is not routine and something that is not material.
Okay.
So we use a ritual, let's say a birthday party, okay, to celebrate a community, to celebrate a history, to celebrate the future, and we add richness to it. We add color, we add culture, and a ritual activity like, is it a birthday party if no one blows out candles? Okay, you've got to light the candles and you've got to blow them out. Are these utilitarian candles? Are they lighting the room for us so we can read? No. Are these candles heating the room so we can stay warm? No. These are non-utilitarian decorative candles. So that's what distinguishes a ritual from a routine. Brushing your teeth is a routine. If you set up an altar in your bathroom to your mother and father who taught you to brush your teeth regularly, along with their pictures, and you lit a candle, thanks mom, thanks dad, and then brush your teeth for 3 minutes, and then blew it out afterwards, and then sang a song and pivoted in a circle and bowed towards Mecca. Okay, now you've ritualized brushing your teeth. But let me rattle on just a bit more about ritual. We ritualize stuff that's important, but is not routinable. It's not entirely predictable.
What do you mean?
Okay, here's an example. It's from baseball. Baseball players, hitters, are very superstitious. They practice rituals before they get into the batter's box. If they're a Roman Catholic, they often make a sign of the cross. If they stepped on a crack on the sidewalk that morning and got a hit, the next day they'll step on a crack in the sidewalk to keep it going. If they're on a hitting streak and they wore the same t-shirt, that t-shirt is staying on until they don't get a hit. And that's because hitting is really hard. And it's unpredictable as to what it is you've got to do it right.
Okay, so you just struck on something that's very interesting because I read an article recently about why ritual is especially important when things are not certain.
Yes, that's
So,
exactly right. Yes.
and the article I read was talking about someone in Iran, a woman whose, whose rights had been basically taken away, so he
Mhm.
didn't have a lot of the freedoms that she had, and there were a lot of uncertainties politically, but they were able to practice a lot of the religious rituals, and that brought some predictability to their lives. Is ritual about predictability as well?
I'd call it comfort.
Okay.
More about comfort in times of unpredictability. So just to complete the baseball
Oh,
analogy,
sorry. Yeah.
do baseball players get all superstitious about fielding? No. Baseball players are all good fielders. They catch the ball and throw it the right way 98, 99% of the time. Do they hit the baseball 98 or 99% of the time? No, they strike out and look foolish well over half the time. So they ritualize their behavior before they get in the batter's box. But fielding is a routine. They
Okay.
practice. I mean, you practice, but you could pretty much predict what's going on. For another example, the military is a highly ritualized society to maintain morale, especially before and after battle. I mean, before battle, you want to make sure this unit of people stays together and supports each other. And then after the battle, after some of them have died, holy crap. I mean, you've got to maintain morale and say thank you in a really big way and give them a parade with flags flying, and you distribute medals and you hire the brass band and you put on special uniforms. I mean, this is called the whole 9 yards of ritual, especially after a unit comes home after deployment.
So that's about comfort.
Comfort,
It's about community
morale,
and morale.
huge.
Well, I do want to talk about, because I think, one of my premises, and it's not, I didn't make this up, is that well-being is very closely tied to community and to our sense of belonging.
Absolutely.
And ritual really supports that. And I was
Yes.
wondering about, this time of year, generally, this time of our history, more specifically, things are hard, things are uncertain, things feel fragmented. What is the role of ritual right now? Or what could it be?
Well, we've just gone through an enormously important ritual in our traditions. We've celebrated winter. We celebrated the beginning of winter. There's no society on earth that hasn't got some huge set of some festival of lights going on around late December, early January. And the purpose of it all is to maintain morale, celebrate family, sticking together, and hey, we've survived another year together or not. How well we've done, and exchange of gifts. It's all about Christmas is all about the celebration of family, community, history. We do the same things every year, but then a little bit different. We do all sorts of stuff. We put up a tree. Does it warm the house? No.
Hope not.
You don't want it to warm up the house.
Yeah, okay. And I'm thinking too, you have your theology perspective.
Yeah.
And I know we've got a lot of representation on this call, even about sort of a larger spiritual worldview. I'm curious about the role of ritual in helping to connect us to something larger than our day-to-day, whether it be a bigger force, God or spirit, or even community. Even if we looked just no further than our larger community, how does ritual help connect us?
That has traditionally been a huge part of ritual. So if you want to say a religious ritual for emphasis, a religious ritual is going to connect you to unseen forces. Okay, we're always negotiating with unseen forces. when we want something that's not entirely over our control to get. I don't know, good grades on an exam, a child, a spouse, safety, safe travel, all sorts of stuff. Well, we're happy to bring in anybody who will help us get what we want and keep us safe. But traditionally, see, I'm getting at deities. I'm getting at unseen forces, gods, goddesses, the God, if you're a monotheist who's in control of everything. And we do various symbolic actions to to remind us of what God traditionally has done, and to remind God, just in case God has forgotten. See, if you believe in, to get theological here, if you believe in an all-powerful, all-knowing deity, why do we bother to pray? I mean, God knows everything already and has a wonderful plan for us anyhow, so we don't need to bother praying, except that the Bible is full of injunctions and exhortations to pray. Excuse me. So even strict Calvinists, that they couldn't quite go there. Even the Calvinists said, no, you need to pray. Yeah, you can pray to the deity. How they squared prayer with predestination, I don't know. I'm not a strict Calvinist. I've always wondered about that. And of course, it's Calvin and his followers that stripped a lot of the ritual out of Christianity.
Yeah.
They took
Having
away
been
the
raised.
stained glass and the images of saints and the statues and everything. It's a pretty stripped down, cleaned up modernity, modern form of Christianity.
You know, when we were preparing for this call, Richard, I asked you if you had a story about a particular experience with ritual that really meant something or really impacted you on a deep level. And you would you mind telling that story again?
Gosh, which you have to remind me, which one was it?
It had to do with going to a Catholic service, a Catholic.
Well, I can give you a couple of them. One, right, when I was at the University of Notre Dame for a conference, and where my dad went to college at Notre Dame, class of 35. And I didn't, for a whole bunch of reasons we won't go into now. So I'm a Protestant, but I didn't fall all that far from the Catholic tree. And attending mass there during this conference, when a whole bunch of bishops came trooping up the front, the main aisle there, accompanied by a thurifer. That's that little brass thing that you swing around and the smoke comes hissing out of it. And the organ thundered out an old hymn that I remembered from childhood. Holy God, be praised thy name. Lord of all, we bow before thee. So I was just in tears. I was a blubbering mess within just a couple of minutes there. So it took me a long time to leave afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's what a really powerful ritual should do for you, is connect you with the ancestors and open up some gates in the heart that hadn't been opened for a while.
I love that.
That's when it works. Another powerful ritual for me was just going to a concert by the Black Watch, the mass pipes and drums of the Black Watch at Thompson Arena at Dartmouth College. And they just had an opening number that just knocked you right out. The band came out without the pipes and moved around for a while. And then they circled around, came back to the entrance. They knocked out the lights. Here's the spotlight. And then the pipers come out with drummers dressed in leopard skins and shakos. I mean, this is the full Monty of military ritual. Come out playing Scotland the Brave, just blasting, and these guys taking the field. It was, you got to see it.
You had to be
Pipes
there.
and drums of the Black Watch.
All right.
Something about bagpipes too. I mean, that is a primitive, weird, strange instrument that's going to have some effect on you.
Definitely.
Might run screaming out the door, I guess, if you're not into bagpipes.
Well, I think that actually is a good time. This is a good time to maybe shift the conversation a little bit